Right now, I have to stop saying.
Coming up on today's DLLS Stars podcast, Jason Robertson might be playing in Game 1 of the second round against the Winnipeg Jets. That and much more as we preview the series and hit you with a bunch of NHL news and notes right now on DLLS.
Get ready, boys.
This is the DLLS Stars Podcast. The DLLS Stars Podcast and Stanley Cup playoff coverage is brought to you by Bud Light. Bud Light, easy to drink, easy to enjoy responsibly, and by Happiest Hour. Check out Happiest Hour for the best spot to watch the NHL playoffs. It's Tuesday. It is May the 6th. This is the DLLS Stars Podcast as we welcome you inside the podcast studios. It's a good place for a podcast show, right? Alongside Craig Ludwig and Sam Nestler and our producer, John Andersen. I'm Owen Newkirk. Thanks for joining us today. All right, guys. The big news of the day, we're not going to mince words here, involves the Stars practicing, and now they should be taking off as long as the weather cooperates a little bit. It hasn't been so far in Dallas on this rainy Tuesday. They should be taking off for Winnipeg on the team flight within the next half hour or so. So as we get ready for what will be the first salvo of a possible 7-game series with the Jets, Sam, practice today was quite interesting and
even my microphone
even a bit enlightening. Yes, today we have to give Luddy credit. His mic was in position. Sam's was not.
There's a lot going on. I got this bucket in front of me here.
Don't complain about the sponsors.
What are we talking about?
Priorities.
Let's talk about practice.
Let's talk about practice, lads. We're talking about practice.
No.
Jason Robertson.
We talking about practice.
Oh my God,
he had it
has
too.
it ready. Oh,
Not
God,
a
you're the
game.
best.
Not a game. We talking about practice.
That's amazing.
That's one of the all-time great press conference conversations with AI. Allen Iverson, not artificial intelligence. All right, Sam.
Yep.
We sat here yesterday and we were talking about Robertson and Heiskanen, and I think all three were in agreement that neither of those two guys are going to play Game 1. We had that feeling. Well, watching what we did today, I feel like that's changed at least for one of those two.
Yeah, and the funny thing is it's the opposite of what we would have imagined. I think we all thought Miro was a few steps ahead of Robo, looking at how the recovery was going. Robertson had just joined the team for, I think it was morning skate before Game 7 was the first time he was back with the team. But today at practice, we showed up and they had Robertson skating on a full line, fully part of practice, skating with Marchment and Wyatt Johnston, which was a nice little change up as well. They went with some shuffling today. We had Marchment with Johnston and Robertson, and then Ben actually moved up with Duchesne and Sagan with the Finn line on top, and then Evgeny Dodonov was the one moving now to the fourth line. So in terms of his availability with Jason Robertson for tomorrow, Pete said that he's close, and it's all matters how he feels tomorrow, right? The recovery, we've heard this with Miro as well. It's not necessarily about how they feel while skating at practice. It's how they feel the next morning. So we'll see after when they get ready for morning skate tomorrow. But I will say that Pete DeBoer mentioned something that kind of struck me as notable.
Do you think he tipped his hand a little bit?
I'm not sure if he did. I'm not sure if he was just talking, but he was asked about kind of the depth and making hard decisions with guys that deserve to be in the lineup. And he said Colin Blackwell is probably going to be out tomorrow. And then he went on to talk about how important Blackwell was in that first round. But the fact that he said that Colin Blackwell being out we all assume Maverick Bourque is staying out until proven otherwise. So that would essentially mean those two as the scratches and Jason Robertson in the lineup. So unless something changes tomorrow or Robertson has a setback and how he feels or whatever, I expect Jason Robertson to be in the lineup tomorrow.
Hey, John, if you could go back in the chat, this is a non sequitur. Nice. Last night, this is from Blips. Last night I watched a film called The Assassination of Anthony Stolarz by the coward Sam Bennett. What a movie. We're going to talk about that a little bit later in the show. I just thought that was funny that Blips brought that up. But, John, if you would put on the forward groups again, Luds, when you look at what Pete DeBoer might be trying out with this, not putting Robertson right back with Hintz and Rantanen like you would think would be the obvious move. What do you think? What are your first thoughts here?
It's the playoffs. I do not believe a thing from either side. And the Hintz line has been good. To me, I think if you put Robertson back up there, and again, I can understand not putting him up there right away if he's going to be in the lineup, only minutes and, pace of the game and things like that, and see where he's at. For me, the only one that makes a lot of sense is when you move Jamie up there with Duchesne, and that's mainly because Lowry. And I think Lowry's their captain, not because they're both wearing C's, but they do both play similar games. And Lowry's the guy that when anybody takes advantage of any of the teammates, he'll be the first guy to knock, and so is Jamie. And so if those two Bulls go head-to-head, that's one thing. But again, I don't even – yeah, that's cool. You guys got lines there, and everything changes, and sometimes there's games that are played, and maybe there's not. Maybe they roll this way. But I just think more importantly for me, I look at the Winnipeg roster, and then I go, well, and this is exactly what you don't want your players to think. It's one of the reasons I went out on a limb, and I think I said it in 5, didn't I?
You did.
Yeah,
I even wrote it down.
But I'm sure we did.
We got to keep
and just
track
so
of
everybody
all.
knows, I'm generally not right on any of these predictions.
Same.
But I look at that, especially if
Luds,
these
I will
two
tell
players
you
are-
this. Sean said if Miro comes back and Alexander Petrovic isn't the one scratched, he's going to give us a $200 super chat. If you get stars in 5, we will clip it and we will put it up there and we will celebrate your genius.
Well, I'll be celebrating it too, but it has nothing to do with that.
I will take my
The
pants
celebration would
no.
because-
You keep your pants on.
Okay.
No, but
Keep my pants on.
the celebration is if something like that happens, is you've got guys like Harley and Hintz and Rantanen that are playing all these minutes and playing a lot of time. They're getting a couple extra days off. That's the celebration. So, for playoffs, I don't really. I mean, we sat in there for years, and hey, here's how we're going to go out in the morning skate, and here's what we're going to work on. This is going to be our power play this morning. What? This is what we're working on the power play this morning, because they're out there going, wait a second, they're changing their power play.
So you really
And
would do that, and the coaches would tell you
all the time
the gamesmanship.
Yeah, all
That's
the time.
what I always wonder how much of that is still around.
How would they know?
No,
Yes,
but of course
they
the
have to
coaches
know.
are going to tell us.
Yeah.
Well, they have to. How do we know?
No, I'm just saying it's just interesting that
Oh,
how,
no.
how deep
Yeah.
that went, and
No,
I'm wondering how
all
much
the
it still
time.
goes.
All the time you'd go in there and say, listen, this is how we're practicing today. We're going to do
Well,
this.
the
we're gonna
coaches
do
would
that.
have to tell you because can you imagine?
That's my point.
What would the reaction?
But there are some crazy things.
This is for Sam.
Like they're
though.
not gonna, if I go out there on the power play, they're now you
What
just
would
tipped
happen,
them off.
Something's
Luds,
going on.
Yeah,
if,
exactly.
if you guys went out, you're in the playoffs, your team went out for a morning skate, and the coaches didn't tell you we're going to do some subterfuge, this little gamesmanship of a thing, and you started doing some power play thing that you guys had never done. What would happen?
It's very simple. We're not showing them what we're doing.
Right, no, but
That-
like,
that's-
what would your teammates' reaction be? Wouldn't everybody want to know why?
No, we know the game.
Right, but you know now because they told you, hey, we're going to do this.
Saying
It's
if
going to
they
be
didn't
it's
tell
not.
you, it was because of that,
don't,
right?
I mean, once you get into high school, you get into college, they do these same things.
Yeah.
These guys are doing it in juniors.
Yeah.
They all know this, and they know that what it's about. And we're going to go out and you do basic drills. You don't really do anything. You're not going to set up in your neutral zone forecheck and all this kind of stuff. You're not going to do that. You're going to run through lines, and we're going to do some 5-on-0s, some 5-on-2s, and and again, the other coaches are sitting up there, and they're up there with their pens. They're like, "No, we ain't getting nothing out of this."
Yeah.
But they're not writing them down. They're going, "That's not what it's going to be. We know it's not what it's going to be." So that's why I'm saying, like, when I see this kind of stuff, and Sam's scurrying across the street today when we get in the parking lot, lads, guess what? Guess what?
It's my job, right? Get excited.
Yeah, I know.
He's passionate,
Hey,
and I
Robo's
like it.
playing, but he's going to play on the right side tomorrow. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like whatever.
Okay, so flash that back up if you would, John.
Wait, now go ahead.
I was just gonna say,
What does this mean?
I don't know.
Is that a toilet
Nothing.
thing?
How
So-
much do the coaches of the other team look at that stuff? Because you said
They
to me,
don't.
you said to me like, the only way they know anything is looking at something that like we post. Do they actually look at any of that stuff and care?
Oh no, I think they see it and they just they'll write it down. Like, but I mean, again, you know how teams finish in the playoffs. You saw their last game, and everything's dialed in.
He's going to finish
and
his
they
tricks.
know how how often this guy played with this guy in this line. And if they're going to make a switch, here's where they would go to. They may flip-flop Granlund to Dodonov, or, that maybe they're not even putting Bork in the lineup. Okay, wait a second. Robo hasn't played any games. He's only skated in 2, but Bork's not going to be in the lineup tomorrow. Really? Bork's not going to be in the lineup. Okay, well, maybe Bork's not going to be in the lineup. I don't know. But
is your hunch that Robertson's going to swap with Granlund?
No, I think that if they
are they
going to
have him play on the right?
Oh, well, I think they can start there. Yeah. I don't know why they do that, but okay,
just
maybe he's played the right side before. I have no idea.
I can't remember him ever.
Anytime that I see something like that,
Scott Arniel doesn't follow me on Twitter, so he's not looking at my.
No, but all the other Winnipeg Jets fans do.
Trust me, management for NHL teams have anonymous or burner accounts to read all that
stuff. If I really wanted someone to buy a story, I would probably put Wyatt over on the right side, put Robo on the left side, right, and let Jamie play center. Because then that's more realistic.
Screwy,
that's
right?
what we've seen that before.
Yeah.
Not Robo down there, but they're not out of their physical position that they generally play. So, but again, maybe it could be 100% true. I don't know.
Sam, would you share with everybody the comment that Pete made about his lines in the last series that we were just talking about off air?
Yes.
And then I want to ask Luds a question about it.
Yeah, I have it right here, just the exact quote. But he said, he was asked about the line shuffling and why he was changing things up. He said, if I looked at the 7 games against Colorado, I really liked the Hins line, as he calls Rope Hins. I like the Hins line.
He also calls him Johnson instead of Johnson, but that's okay.
And Cash, which is actually what
that's
Colorado's coach said.
I've heard that before.
Yeah, Bednar actually called him Nakash.
Multiple, messing that.
Anyway, so if I looked at the 7 games against Colorado, I liked the Hintz line, particularly the last 3 or 4 games. Those other lines I thought were spotty, and I think we're just looking for some more consistency.
Do you agree with that assessment of the other lines? Because clearly Rantanen and Hintz and Granlund started to click and produce at a ridiculous level, especially Rantanen and Hintz. But what are your overarching take of 7 games of the rest of that group?
See, here's the way I look at all this. That was against Colorado. They were playing against the Avs, and they were playing against the 4 lines that they had in the lineup that night and the certain players. And so sometimes you can put a certain player on that side to play against a certain player on this side. This is a total different lineup. It means whatever worked against Colorado, really, yes, that there are certain things that you like what you did. But again, like I said right from the beginning, you're going to make adjustments the whole playoffs, every round, every game of every round. So they may start a certain way because they think, okay, here's where Kyle Connor's playing, and I want a certain guy to play across from him. And here's where Lowry is, and he plays in the middle of the ice, but Jamie's not taking faceoffs as much anymore, but he can be on the wing, and the same thing can happen. So you may do little things like that, and then they're going to find out that, you know what? We're going to have to flip-flop our D because Connor's just blowing by a certain guy. We're going to have to change it up a little bit. That's the kind of things that happen. This is for practice. This is for whatever it is. And like I said, it doesn't mean that it's not going to happen, but nothing's going to stay the same throughout the playoffs.
For sure.
So, again, the Robo playing the right side for me, I'm like, well, okay, but we've never seen that ever. We've never
really seen that, no.
Ever. Because at times Robo has a hard time getting pucks out of the zone on his left wing side and in. It doesn't get any easier playing your offside against a team that plays with a hell of a lot more structure than we've seen in the first round. So
forget about the Mike. I've never seen him do it.
No,
that's the other thing. Like, it's one thing if it's someone that we've seen at least do it here and there. I've never seen him.
And we know that Granlund can play both sides. Yeah. So him going left to right,
that's the easy flip. That's what I'm saying. It's an easy flip for that, just to turn them 2 over, because we've seen that line before too with Granlund down there. So anyway, who knows?
The one last sign that did make it seem more like it's happening, and why we decided to say looks like Robo's going to play, is because he was part of the second power play unit. And it wasn't like Miro has gotten in a little bit in those morning skates, playing, switching in and out with Essa. He was a full-blown on his preferred right wing, the half wall of that second group. It makes sense for him not to get shoehourned into the top group because they've been performing really well. Duchesne, Rantanen,
and where
Johnson
would you put him anyways in the top group?
I don't
you think about it.
Well,
we haven't even.
Honestly, it's where Rantanen is.
Yeah,
that's what I mean.
Which is
where
wild.
are you going to put him?
Yeah,
you ain't moving Rantanen from
no.
And Duchesne deserves to be on the top.
The only other way maybe would be to have Robo in the bumper, but Rope Hintz is in there, and he's been good at that.
And Robertson was also Marchment was rotating in, and when he was rotating in, he was going in for Ben, not for Robertson.
To me, seeing Robo be a full second power play unit, which, by the way, that's an embarrassment of riches. Jason Robinson's on your second group. But having him
really
as that
good problem to
Sagan.
have.
to me, that's a sign that he's playing.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to go through that and worry. This is their last time to do it without the Winnipeg media all over them. And
They already got it right now.
they know, right?
That's
But
what I'm saying. It ain't going to matter if they practice it tomorrow.
Not that who's doing it, but like you're not necessarily going to do it on morning skate, right? They probably did a few more things that weren't necessarily being viewed. Like you said, there's no surprises. It's not going to matter.
Yeah.
Let's talk
There's
about
that thing called the internet now. I think you can.
Yeah,
and guys like this sitting between us that reports everything that happens. So
Well,
we love guys like you.
We found out some stuff about
They pay me to
Winnipeg.
do it.
I think we should talk about that because Winnipeg's going through the exact same things. So let's talk about the Jets' injuries and how they might line up in Game 1 next here on the DLS Stars Podcast.
Hey, Stars fans, what's up? Enjoying the game should be easy, so don't overthink it. What to wear? Easy. Just grab your lucky jersey. Don't know what to serve your friends? Just pick up some pizza, take it to go, have it there. Grab a bunch of Bud Light, bring some home, stock it up. Don't drink it all there. See, everything is very, very easy. Just like Bud Light, which is always brewed with 4 simple ingredients for a clean, crisp taste. Bud Light, easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Remember, drink responsibly. Anheuser-Busch, Bud Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
And Lud's the last thing. Make sure it's cold.
Well, there's no other option.
I mean, I know people
There's
that
no option.
but
That's why these 2 big cans have been sitting here for a long time because
they're
they have
not
not met the
chilled.
fridge yet. No.
Cold
now I got to get
is
it
better.
straight, otherwise John will have a tizzy.
That looks good. All right, let's talk about
That's the
Empire
opposite.
today.
Right there.
Just like your favorite team needs a home ice advantage, although the Stars won't in this series, at least to start. They can win a game in Winnipeg and steal home ice advantage. Your home needs a home floor advantage, and Empire Today can help you get it. Empire Today has flooring experts dedicated to flooring professionals, and that's it, who focus on flooring every single day. The big box stores we've all been to. You wander the endless aisles. You're hauling all these materials home. You're looking for an installer and coordinating everything yourself. Here's the thing. Why not have Empire Today do it for you? They do it from start to finish. You get clear, upfront, and inclusive pricing. Plus, you can schedule installation as soon as the next day, because let's face it, nobody likes to wait. The flooring experts bring the showroom right to your home. You can pick the flooring. You can look at the colors for your space, see how your furniture looks, and, of course, getting those precise measurements. Schedule a free in-home estimate today because some things are just better at home. DLLS listeners can receive a $350 discount when using the promo code DLLS. Yes, you heard that right, a $350 discount with code DLLS. Restrictions apply. Visit EmpireToday/DLLS for full details. Okay, we talked about the Stars lines from today and what it looks like with Jason Robertson back in the lineup. And I want to do the same thing with the Jets now. But before I do, one more follow-up question to both of you about Robertson. What does having Jason Robertson come back in, if he does indeed play Game 1, do for a team that got through the Avalanche without him and Miro Heiskanen?
Another goal scorer. I mean, it's somebody else you have to be aware of where he is on the ice. I mean, anytime you don't have a 30, 40 goal guy on the ice, you don't have to – your focus is not as sharp on one single player. And everybody knows where I think Robo does most of his damage. It seems like coming from the right side, walking to the middle of the ice. That doesn't mean it's on the entry. It's on the power play where he walks across. He's got a deceptive shot. He's got a great shot from distance. But again, that can be countered by the structure that we're going to see with the Winnipeg Jets. But to answer your question, it's just somebody else that if you give too much time and space to, he's got a chance of scoring every time he shoots the puck. So your coverage changes a little bit. Now, all of a sudden, you play a little bit tighter to that guy, so there might be a little more space in the middle of the ice or wherever he is.
Yeah, I mean, I'll agree with all that. The other thing I said, and I think I just said it to Luds before we came on here, is this team's depth has already shown, obviously, in this last round. But you just put one of these guys back in, and it's crazy how deep they are. You're looking at a potential third line that has elite goal scorers. You got guys like Dodonov, who, what do you have, 20 goals?
Yep.
And he's on your fourth line, which is probably where he belongs because of what they have above him. So that, to me, is what really stands out. Just tweeting out or looking at lines today is just, this is the team that we thought we would see. And it's funny that one name can change that much, but I just think it's laughable how deep they are. And then I just said to Luds 2 seconds ago, oh, by the way, they're missing Miro Heiskanen.
The other thing that I should bring up, and this is going to be a little bit more of a physical series, from Winnipeg versus the Avs, where the Avs are, they're a little more north-south in speed, and then they throw in some east-west. And the way that Winnipeg has their success is being hard to play against. And then they dial it up like all teams do in the playoffs. So, again, I want to go back to Robo playing the right side of the ice. When you in a spot, I'm not going to say that he's never played, but you have to look down to grab the puck and you have to pull it off the wall and all these other kinds. You expose yourself a little bit. And so to me, it puts him in, I'm not going to say a vulnerable position because he's a player that plays with his head up for the most part. And if I remember correctly, he was on his wing side of the ice.
He was on the left, yes.
No, when he got his knee hurt.
Yes, he was on the left side of the ice.
It was a battle on the wall.
Yes.
And again, it was that kind of thing. Now, if you get to the other side where you're not as comfortable, it might take you an extra second, and it gives somebody else. So all them little kind of things, I think, come into play.
Okay, so let's take that into what they will be facing against and take a look at the Winnipeg Jets lineup. Now, the big news for Winnipeg, of course, is their injuries. Today, they had an optional practice, but there are 3 names missing, 1 from the forward group and 2 from the D group. Of course, the big one is Mark Scheifele up front. He's a huge part of their team, Luds, and this is how they lined up. They didn't do lines today because it was an optional practice. I would imagine we'll see something tomorrow morning at their morning skate up at Canada Life Center. This is how they started Game 7 against the St. Louis Blues. And you talked about it in our last segment of not getting too overconfident because without Scheifele, they moved everybody else up the middle. They brought in Dominic Toninato, and it suddenly makes them look, that's that center depth, right? It's, I know Nemesnikov had a heck of a Game 7. He played really well. Lowry scored the winner in overtime or in double overtime, and Perfetti was fantastic in that game. A couple of big goals, and he has been creating, in that series against St. Louis, a ton of scoring chances. So he's been really good. Kyle Connor's been really good so far, which is good because for me, Connor was one of the big U.S. disappointments at the Four Nations tournament. He's looked a lot more dangerous so far in this series. I don't know if it's just a comfort of playing with his team or being one of the focal points, whereas with the U.S. team, he was just another one of their players. But
he's getting more ice time.
Yeah.
And he has to get more ice time.
Does that play into his strength to have more ice time that way?
No, not having Scheifele not there because he's not as dangerous without Scheifele because they are very similar to the Hintz-Robo kind of connection, and you could go to the Duchesne and Tyler connection or Marchment, whatever you want. But having Scheifele out of the lineup, I'm presuming he's out. I have no idea. But if he's out of the lineup. So he
skated with a non-contact yellow jersey today with practice. Morrissey and Stanley, which we'll talk about in a minute, left before the team portion of the practice.
Yeah, and see, with the non-contact jersey, the day before a game, that usually means, and again, they can be playing the same games.
Yeah, Arneal said that it was all of them were game time decisions.
Yeah, well, everybody says that.
You know what that is at this time of year.
Everybody is.
The rest of the playoffs.
So, but I mean, when Scheifele's out, first off, they're a weaker team on the faceoffs, up the middle of the ice, just in general. His speed coming up the ice, the effectiveness that Kyle Connor has, and then the power play. And I mean, and he's up. He was knocking on the door of 50 goals this year. I think he finished with 44 or 45, whatever it may be. But so that's a big, big piece missing. And that's why you got to be careful going into the series, overconfident. You have to make sure you win the games that he's not in because when he comes back, they're probably going to be a better team. So in all those areas there, I think that's a big miss. And the other place I think is a big miss, and you probably wouldn't think it, is the Stanley guy. Because as the season's gone along, from the first time I saw him play to near the end of the year, I thought he was he's 6'4",
he's a massive
6'5".
guy. I think he's bigger. Isn't he like 6'7"?
I don't know.
I think he's huge. Yeah.
Well, he's probably very Bishop-like, right?
Yeah.
But he's their guy that in front of the net, it's difficult to get there. He finishes his checks in the corners, his long reach on defending, and he's got good mobility for the size that he is. And so I think that's an area that another bonus for Dallas. Let's just put it that way.
6'7", 231 is his official listing, 26 years old. He was a first rounder for Winnipeg back in 2016. And we had this conversation, Luds, I think before the last regular season matchup between the two. I don't know if it was on the air or off the air, but Stanley was a guy that didn't play regularly. Right. He was in and out of the lineup. So this is his career. The 2021 season, 37 regular season games. Then 58 the next year, 19 the year after that. Last year he played 25. This year he played 63. That is the highest of his career. It's 5 more than that 21-22 season. But he was a regular, averaging a little over 15 minutes a night. And for a guy that size to start coming, I think a lot of people that don't watch the Jets all the time, and I'm certainly one of them, kind of just figured he was a throwaway, a depth guy. Well, he's pretty clearly had a better year this year, and sort of a coming out.
I would say it's a testament to where his game has gone, because now he's noticeable in games. I mean, and he's always been a big guy, but he just seems like he's more confident. I think you get into the lineup more, you don't have to worry about being in and out of the lineup. I just think he's a big piece missing back there. Not as big as Morrissey not being there. There's no question.
Go ahead and show the defense for Game 7. Morrissey was part of that, Luds, but then he left with, according to the reports, they said it would look like a shoulder injury.
Was 2 minutes in, right?
It was really early, and so
like 2.5 minutes in the
Pionk and Sandberg and DeMello really picked up a ton. That whole group of 5 with Hayden Fleury and Luke Schenn, I thought really carried an extra burden, obviously because of the Morrissey injury. But how big of a loss is Josh Morrissey?
Well,
to
let's
this
just
team?
put it this way: Pionk had to play 40 minutes in their last game. You know what I'm saying? So,
so
that just shows you. And Pionk's a good defenseman. He is, and I think that for me, when he came here from, I believe it was the Islanders, I didn't know he was that good. I knew he had a bomb for a shot, but the way that he played, I think the Islanders is the first team I saw him play with.
Rangers.
I'm not even sure. Rangers. Sorry,
New York
Rangers.
team. Yep.
It was New York. I was in the right.
You were in the right.
I was in the right part of the country.
Stanley Cup champion.
Yeah. So, but the Morrissey dude is not big, but he defends well. He's elusive. The way he joins the plays. I think what's impressive is in his own zone. The way he breaks pucks out. He makes the right reads all the time. He's got this tight turn ability. He shakes guys off.
Is he as important to them as Miro is to the Stars and breakouts, or Makar with the Avalanche?
In a different kind of way. I don't want to put him in Miro category when Miro's healthy, because he's smaller.
In terms of the breakouts.
In terms of the way he carries and transports the pucks out. I mean, he's not a strictly skater, but he's got a way to shake people. Yeah. And it's more from the hash marks to the boards. He can lose people. He doesn't, he's not a guy that is going to overwhelm you with his, ability to physical strength to move people. And he reads the play really well. So I think that's a big miss. And again, obviously, to me, where the biggest hit comes in with them guys out is that power play. Through the playoffs, they're somewhere like 70% on the power play.
Yeah, they're middle of the pack on both.
And that's where they were good this year. When those guys were in there, they were in the top of the league. They were clicking along
way
at
25,
30%.
Yeah, way far away from the rest of the
on
pack.
The power play. So, that's where they're down a notch. They're down a notch on their penalty killing. I think where they're at 70%. I think the Stars are around 84, 85% or somewhere in there. So they just miss Morrissey in every facet of the game back there, just like Scheifele.
We can't do a Jets preview without talking about Connor Hellebuyck. We talked about him a little bit yesterday, but again today, he's a huge part of their team. I know a lot of people. We'll see how the voting goes for this, but I've heard some people suggest that he was their number 1 vote on their Hart Trophy nomination. Yeah. I think he's totally deserving of that. Yep. Does getting through the St. Louis Blues in double overtime of Game 7 do anything for his postseason confidence?
It sure doesn't hurt.
Yeah, I think it's one of those where I think the getting past that hump, it cannot be understated how important that is for him, because he's felt the pressure. I mean, he's gone multiple seasons now, more than 3 or 4. I think it's been 5 or 6 now. He's been the best goalie in the NHL. He's Vezina candidate, if not winner, every season. He was a starting goalie and was fantastic for the Team USA at the Four Nations. However, when he's gotten into that moment, and there's a mix of reasons, right? They got blown away by Colorado in the series they played. It wasn't his fault. But when he's gotten to the big moments, whether it's the playoffs or the final game of the Four Nations or whatever it is, he's gotten out-dueled by the other goaltender consistently. And to get over that hump when he was not playing at his best, I think it does a lot for him to turn the page now and say that he can do it. And mentally, goaltending is 80% mental, which is just wild. I think mentally it makes him a stronger goalie. And Pete said it today. I asked him directly. I said, which Connor Hellebuyck do you expect to see? And he said, there's no reason to believe we don't see his best.
Yeah. Well, you're sitting on the bench in Game 7 after they go to an extra attacker and there's 2.5 minutes to go in the game, and your teammates bail you out, and you end up, not bail you out there, but he gets back in the game, obviously. They score that goal. He owes it to his teammates now. He owes it to be the Connor Hellebuyck of the regular season.
And he was good after that.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that's what I think you have to, and I know you guys are going to bring it up at some point. This whole thing about the Olympics and all this other stuff, man, that's a million miles away. That has nothing to. They're not going, well, if I play better, I think I'm going to get to start in the Olympics. I'm sorry, that's not what they're thinking. They're thinking I want a Stanley Cup, and then they'll approach that other thing then. But I think that Hellebuyck, the biggest thing is that his teammates bailed him out of another long off season, another press conference, sitting there in Winnipeg and having how many reporters around him in his locker, and now they were around him in a different way, and so I just think that you're probably going to see a more confident guy. Will he change his style a little bit? I'm probably not, but I think I felt like as those games were going along, he was sometimes putting himself in a position where he couldn't make the save. How crazy that makes that sound. But he also knows that every coach is tracking where every goal went. And so sometimes, again, we were talking about this yesterday, that stat where there were 12 or 13 goals over his glove hand, I'm the players now. I'm guys that can shoot in certain spots, the Hintzes, the Rantanens, guys like that.
Robertson.
If he wants to overcompensate for that, I would be looking where they'd go. But now he may be thinking that way too. So it's that cat and mouse game. It'll be interesting to see how he plays, especially in game one.
A lot more to talk about with the Jets and the Stars getting ready to play game one tomorrow night up in Winnipeg. We will carry a little bit over and then talk about we got a lot going on. Toronto and Florida, the controversy around their starting goalie, Anthony Stolarz, quick Texas Stars update, and then a little bit later, boy, do we have a full slate of NHL news and notes, including the Avalanche just fired one of their coaches. All that coming up on DLLS.
First, I'm going to talk about Sleeper without touching my microphone. Sleeper is the best fantasy platform out there, period. Put your ball or puck knowledge to the test by picking whether your favorite or least favorite player will have more or less in their projected stats each week. I did hit yesterday on my Sam Bennett goal prediction.
Did you send it to Bobby to get credit for it?
Yes.
Good.
I did not say he was going to elbow a goalie in the head, though.
We need to get higher up on the Sleeper leaderboard as a show.
Tonight, I have Edmonton Oilers forward and Dallas Stars favorite, Sarcasm.
Thank you.
With more than 1.5 assists in Game 1, Connor McDavid against the Vegas Golden Knights. If it hits, you can win 2.59 times your money. Sleeper keeps you in the loop with instant alerts for breaking news and major injuries so you can stay ahead of the game. If you think you have what it takes, new users can download the Sleeper app and use the code DLLS Stars to get $55 in free entries when you place a $5 contest. Apply it to any contest, doesn't have to be your first. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today.
All right, let's talk about Game Time, as Sam nailed that one on the nose. Game Time is the best way to get tickets to your favorite event, whether it's a sporting event, concert, theater, stand-up comedy. Best way. Go to their website, gametime.co, or you download their app. They have a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. What does it do? Well, it filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. We have game number 3 and 4 at American Airlines Center. Now, maybe you want to try to get the games up in Winnipeg. Those whiteouts are so much fun to watch on TV. I'm sure the atmosphere is going to be incredible, but maybe you go to see the games at the AAC. Those atmospheres are nuts. Well, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code DLLS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code DLLS for $20 off. Hey, Sam, what time is it?
Hi, Owen. Game time.
One of these days. Okay. So we're going to mostly talk about Toronto, Florida here. But before we get to that really quickly, Hellebuyck winning a series. The one thing that stood out to me, guys, as I was looking at the Game 7 between the Blues and the Jets was Connor Hellebuyck, for as good of a goalie as he is not as good at playing the puck behind his net as Jordan Binnington. Binnington, I hate to pay a compliment to a guy, especially when he's your villain in the division, in international play, but he deserves that respect of he's really good at playing the puck. Not only getting back there quickly, but making the right reads, quick bumps, harder passes. He's not Ben Bishop or Marty Turco, but he is I think he's one of the better current NHL goalies in terms of not just stick handling, but making the right decisions. Is Hellebuyck being more a stay-at-home guy a little bit easier for the Stars in that regard because of their forecheck? He's not going to be as much of a disruptor as Binnington would have been?
Not really, because I mean, the defensemen are the ones that play it differently. So they all know what their goalie does, and so they just come back into certain areas of the ice. This is where he likes to put the puck. It's that easy. Is it easier having a Marty Turco? 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, I can tell you there were times when the coaches of teams playing against them, they would have a game plan to play against Marty Turco, which just sounds crazy. But because Marty was so good at moving, he was a third defenseman back there. And honestly, if I'd have been playing with Marty Turco, he'd have been the second defenseman.
Yeah,
I'd have been the third one.
I was just about to say that.
No, I mean for sure.
You go stand in the crease and block a shot.
It's funny. Marty plays with us now, and he plays out, and he sucks. I'm like, Turco, just put your goalie pads on, or use a goalie stick.
Maybe it'll be really good that way. Yeah.
So he doesn't suck, but he's not very good. He probably plays like Owen.
I would be happy to be compared to
no,
Turco.
but I do think that they know them. You know what I mean? Like it's not that big a thing. Are they going to put pucks in a different way? I think you always try to keep pucks away from goaltenders. Teams that put pucks in the goalies to play. But yeah, Binnington is the kind of guy. Binnington would move pucks up the middle of the ice. Like defensemen, you have the little bump up the middle when
guys
they're
off.
Yeah, he. I mean, again, you don't have to deal with that, of course. So is it different? Yeah, but you just have to know how you forecheck differently. I mean, that's all it is. Like here's how he is. If you're playing against Binnington, you probably don't forecheck as hard, or you take the middle away first and don't let him go up the middle of the ice. Or you may say, no, we want him to come up the middle of the ice. So again, with everything else, I mean, you're not going to overanalyze the way he moves puck versus the way he stops pucks.
Two kind of random questions off that, just out of curiosity. If you have, let's say, it's Hellebuyck, who's not going to do it as much. One, are your defensemen taking more or less hits when your goalie doesn't play the puck as much? I don't think goalies at this level really put you into trouble. They move the puck so you're not going to get hit. But if they're not going out and playing as much, you're having to go get it.
You're definitely going to be available to be hit more because you're getting the puck from the hash marks to the boards and then below it. And you're coming around the walls and things like that. So yeah, I think that way. And again, like if you're playing with Binnington, you don't even come back sometimes. You just kind of post up on the hash marks and he'll make that pass.
And then so if it's Hellebuyck and he does play it, let's say it's a wrap around the boards, he comes out. Do you go to him as a forechecker, or do you just go cut off your F1 just goes and cut off?
I think that's the forecheck. If you're any time you can get to anybody on the wall, you go. And so I think that the way Dallas likes to get up ice, of course, they're going to try to forecheck those guys. And that's where you want to turn pucks over. Regardless if it's a goalie moving it or a defenseman to a forward, you want to take the walls away. And that's the forecheck now. I mean, you kind of most teams overload on one side of the ice, right? And you're trying to, because it's hard getting the puck from your end through the neutrals down and then get in with control. So if you can turn something over, I'm going to shut up because Owen's yawning.
No,
so
that has nothing to do with you.
Oh,
nope,
okay.
You're fine.
You were pulling one
We're
of mine last night.
We're in the zone.
Yeah. No, I think that you always want to pressure the wall, but I very rarely, if I just kind of playing my head back, he doesn't really move pucks to the wall. Defensemen come out and they post up on the side.
Yeah,
so he just makes passes there. Or ideally, he can just set it up and let defensemen come back.
Okay.
But that forecheck dictate all that.
Speaking of goaltending, we have to discuss the incident last night in Game 1 between Toronto and Florida, and it was Anthony Stolarz who started the game for the Leafs, played every minute of their first round series against Ottawa, and now he's out. We don't know for how long. We'll see, because he left in the middle of the second period. And I went back and watched this again because I didn't even notice it at first, and it was because the TV broadcast for ESPN didn't realize why he left. And they didn't pick up on he was actually vomiting at the bench, basically hanging over the boards onto the bench. And so the discussion is he actually was reportedly stretchered out of the arena to a local hospital. He's since been released. Everybody was fixated on a contact about 3 minutes before he pulled himself from the game with Sam Bennett on I believe it was a power play for the Panthers. But then I was talking to Casey DeSmith this morning. He said, no, I think that first shot of the game that knocked his helmet off, hit him right in the chin, might have been the culprit. And then it just bled from there. But if you're the Leafs, they raced out to a 4-1 lead. The Panthers made it interesting last night. They kind of clawed back in. Obviously, Joseph Woll has been really good for them in a battle throughout the year with Stolarz, and Stolarz was hurt for a bit. But Luds, if you're a Leaf fan, should you be concerned with watching the healthier goalie just last night?
Yeah, especially if he does have anything less than a minor bell ringing, of course, because he's the guy that's done most of the damage to opponents, and you saw when Joseph Wall comes into the, a couple goals go in on him. So, and I don't think he looked like a confident guy, but he had his stretches during the year where he was good. Yep. I do think that the way that Craig Berube has had that team kind of play differently with structure helps that, because they don't give up as many chances as they did playing the other styles that they've played. They're better in their own zone, and they play more pucks at the other end of the rink because they play a little more north-south, and they don't play east-west, and so pucks stay in the offensive zone a little bit more, so that may help. But, and again, for playing with that guy, a different goaltender there, you don't really change your game unless breakouts. Those are the only kind of things. But Stolarz isn't a guy that's firing the puck up through the middle of the ice either. So, but I do believe that Stolarz has been the piece that they've been looking for a long time there in net, and so it would be a big miss for him.
Yeah, I think I want to say it was Sam Reinhart that shot that puck through a screen.
The first one of the game.
Yeah, I think he allowed the screens to back up. There was traffic, and it hit him, as you said, right in the chin, popped both the buckles off. But the interesting part that I took away is I saw some doctor posted this originally, but it's called shake, spontaneous head shake after a kinematic event, which is, if you look closely at someone who gets a concussion, often they'll do what Lutz calls shaking the cobwebs out, because you feel it. You literally feel like there's cobwebs.
Well, you think that's the way you can get your vision.
You feel like you're cloudy, or you wake up and you're a little groggy. That's what you kind of do. So you see him, and he's doing that little head shake after that first shot, and then I'm not sure that the Bennett thing obviously had an effect. It wasn't an elbow, like a hard elbow to the head, but he bent his neck sideways, and if you're already dealing with that, had a few concussions in my day, your neck is super, super susceptible, super weak. I could imagine he is very sore today, and I think that the process here, usually when you go through that much, I'm not going to speculate because I don't know, but it didn't look like something where he's just going to be back in practice tomorrow and ready to go.
So when Stolarz when Buckleton comes off and you see him shake his head there, don't think there weren't 20 guys on that other bench that saw that.
Oh, yeah.
And then he puts his helmet on and he goes back in there.
I'm surprised spotters didn't either.
That's the only thing for me. But there's a lot of times when goalies take their masks off, they always take them off, right? When a buckle.
Yep.
You see them shake their head
to
get the helmet to come off.
Fixing the hair and the sweat.
And exactly. Yeah. So they're the ones that are always doing that kind of stuff anyway. So I don't think that they picked up on it.
Yeah.
Right? And so, but I guarantee you that the bench did. And so any chance I can get, that's what the playoffs are about. You find a way, and there's a scrum in there, and get in there, and if somebody gives you this little one here, oh, sorry, I fell on top of the goaltender, not because of a concussion thing, but you're just making life miserable for him.
So is it only because it was involving Sam Bennett that there was even discussion about supplement adjustment? Because it didn't seem like there was much in that collision. Again, he did.
Yeah,
he's got a teammate now that he sucker punched.
Here's the thing: is that's a great point. He's maybe the best sucker punch guy in the NHL. Sneaky.
Yes, he's very sneaky.
And he didn't make any attempt to get out of the way, and maybe he was deliberate of, I'm going to catch him here, but I'm not going to. He was smart enough not to stick his elbow out at all. If he does that.
But the puck was there, and he's digging for a puck. And so at the time, I don't think you're going, I can dig for a puck, and I can get an elbow. He's trying to score a goal.
You can just, I'd imagine he's thinking, I'm going to go here, and if I happen to bump into him,
and he's hoping somebody bumps into him.
What he did with Drew O'Connor this year, what he did to Marchand, was it last year or 2 years ago?
Well, that's a sneaky sucker punch.
What I'm saying is that because he has that, I wouldn't put it past him. I'm not accusing him of anything, but I'm just saying that it wouldn't surprise me if that thought did pop that quickly, because he has shown a very a sneaky way of getting those in. So
very quietly too. He's one of those guys that's not like yapping around.
Why do you think there's a player on the Dallas Stars that gets called for embellishment every once in a while?
Because it happens.
No, exactly. Yeah. So it's exactly what you're saying with Bennett.
It's funny. I went back and watched the third period of Game 7 on Sunday, right? No, yesterday morning. I watched it yesterday morning, and there was a play where Marchment went down and was trying to get a call after, I believe it was 2-1, and I just started laughing. I'm like, you're never going to get that call.
It was when he tripped forward.
He fell forward, and
it looked like he.
I mean, and I looked to see that was 27. He's probably not going to get that.
You know what though? If you're in a way, if it's going to gain you an advantage in a power play in the playoffs, I can live with it a little bit more than in the regular season.
Yeah. Random point, by the way, because fans have been asking me for the last few days. Liam Bichel actually told me today that he did go through concussion protocol.
Yeah,
in Game
I
6.
wondered.
He
Well,
said
he was out for a while.
Yeah,
remember?
I just wasn't sure if it was a shoulder or something like that. He said it was just his head. He went through concussion. As soon as he got to the room, he said he felt better. Petrovic leaned over and said, "Some good medicine in that back room too." But just so everyone who's asking, he did go through concussion protocol and cleared and returned.
It's actually that other cupboard. There's a different cupboard door over there.
It's the Ludwig side of it.
Still some got cobwebs on them now.
Up next on the DLLS Stars podcast, let's talk about all the news of the day. Texas Stars, Avalanche just fired a coach, not Jared Bednar, but we'll talk about that. The Kings fired a GM. You can guess who that is because there's only one. And more. Lots of things to go through. We'll do a bit quick lightning round next here on DLLS. All right, let's talk about being a diehard. I want you to know that we are in the process of trying to get more Finnish Mafia shirts in stock. They basically sold out, I think, everything but the small size adult small. I believe that they will go live in the next day or so with a pre-order, and that'll probably be it. So if you are waiting around for that shirt, then you need to pounce on it for your size once that pre-order goes live. And I think it's going to be tomorrow, but just we'll let you know for sure once that happens. That shirt has been extremely popular. So too, in the events of the last week, or not even the week, last couple of days, has been the Moose, especially on the left there, along with the Jamie Benn captain one. That has been selling like hotcakes. Well, how do you get one of these? Well, you can certainly go to the alldls.com website and buy one, or you can sign up to be a diehard and pick one of those as your free t-shirt when you sign up for your initial subscription to be a DLS diehard. Use the QR code at the bottom of the screen. You can see it right under LUDs there. Sam will point in your direction. And you can pick out one of those shirts. Plus, being a diehard means you get 20% off of all future merchandise orders. You get discounts on DLLS events. And, of course, one of the most important things, access to all of the things that our website has to offer. All of Sam's writing, which is many times behind the diehard paywall, you get access to that. No ads on your phone when you go and read them on that. Or if you're on the computer, there's those. Plus, diehard only Discord Lounge. That is not available to everybody. You have to be a diehard to be there. We do a lot of fun things. Of course, I gave you the update yesterday of the Stanley Cup bracket that we're doing with the diehards. There's fun conversations and things that, build a great community. Even if Sam goes, I can't keep up. I can't keep up.
Fast.
There's so much going on. Be a DLLS diehard. It is fun. Okay. Luds, I don't even know if you saw this because this literally came out on Twitter when we were during our first segment of the show. The Colorado Avalanche have fired a coach. They fired Ray Bennett. And if you're not familiar with Ray Bennett,
No relation to Sam.
That's right.
Bennett.
I would guess that he had something to do with their power play.
He was the assistant coach that ran the power play. And Luds, that was a huge topic of conversation after they lost to the Stars in the first round because that was their biggest point of weakness. Maybe the penalty kill too, because the Stars scored in all but one game. I think they had scored in 6 of 7 games on the power play in the series. I'd have to double check that, but the point is there's a reaction there. That's one of the reasons why they feel that they didn't beat Dallas was their power play was not very lethal.
Does Nathan McKinnon kill penalties?
14th of 16th.
I don't think he's the primary penalty killer because Logan O'Connor was the big one there.
Is he the big dog on the power play?
He sure is.
Did we see him get frustrated during the playoffs at times?
Mm-hmm.
If he wasn't scoring on the power play, was anybody else?
I think he only scored on the power play.
I think that's called squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Did you notice that Craig Button pointed out that he was trying to do a little superhero hockey on the power play, doing too much by himself?
Well, because nobody else was.
Yeah.
But we've seen that from him before. He does try. I mean, I think he puts the whole team on his shoulders. And, I've heard him do interviews and things like that, and he doesn't sound like some pompous, cocky superstar. I think he just wants to win. Bottom line, I think he's very Sidney Crosby-ish. Those guys want to win.
You know what he didn't really have, it seemed like, on the power play was a big left-handed, hard one-timer
on the other side.
Like a big Finnish power forward?
Yeah, like someone like Rantanen would be someone that would fit in that spot.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm sure he voiced his opinion in that whole situation at times behind closed doors and things like that. So, yeah, I mean, again, they're always, who's to say it's his fault, but somebody has to take the heat for it. And And I think Bednar's a good coach.
I do too.
Without ever playing for the guy, I think he's.
But when you lose a team like that made substantial investment, both during the season and at the trade deadline, and you don't make it through the first round in a series that was very even, but you feel you have a great team, they did. There are consequences.
Yeah, and I would think that the general manager needs to kind of be asked questions also, because to me, Nate just didn't do anything on the power play. Brock Nelson didn't do anything on the power play. Cale Makar wasn't great on the power play. I mean, he did his natural things, but he wasn't as dangerous as I thought he was going to be. I thought, oh no, how do you handle these guys? So I just think there's more of that to go around, and somebody has to be the fall guy, I guess.
We'll get to the other firing that I alluded to, but the Texas Stars, I don't want to let this fall through the cracks. Just won both games to start their best-of-5 series with the Grand Rapids Griffins. This is their first round. It's not the AHL playoff format has changed over the years. They actually have a play-in round, and then this is Texas's first round, but it's not called the first round anymore. Anyway, best of 5. They went up to Michigan, and they won 4-0 on April 29th. Then they had to wait until last night, so they had 6 days between games because of a weird building availability. And Sean was part of that because he was at a Lincoln Park concert in Grand Rapids last Thursday, right after that game. Well, last night they beat the Griffins 4-2. They beat former Dallas and Texas star Jack Campbell, who started game 2 after Sebastian Cossa got the start and got lifted after giving up 4 goals on 19 shots through 30 minutes of game 1. Remy Poirier has been starting and apparently been really good, Sam, down the stretch. I was a little surprised it wasn't Magnus Hellebuyck, but they know what they have in him, and that's good for the prospect in Poirier. 2 wins. Now they go home. They have Friday game 3. They'll have, I believe it's Friday, Saturday, Monday, or something like that. If they have to go, it would be 3 and 4. So 2 games over the first 7 days or so. Now I have 4 days off, and then 3 and 4. But they want to close this out. Texas looking very sharp early.
Yeah, I didn't watch the game super closely, but I did notice one thing they did is they won as a team in those games, whereas a lot of the season we know Blumel, Ritzkovian, those guys were incredible.
It was really spread out.
I think Capobianco led their team in points in the first round, or in the first 2 games with 3 points. So they're
Curtis McKenzie has 2 goals.
Yeah,
Capobianco has a goal and 2 assists.
Yeah, I think he led it. So I mean, it's
but spread out.
Spread it out, which
Cole
is good.
Lind, Artu Huru, Ritzkovian scored
because they're a deep team. We know the Dallas organization is deep, so it's good for them to win like that. I just was looking at the leaders, and Sammy Blais, of all people, leading Abbotsford. Remember when he was on the Blues against them?
Of course.
Playoffs?
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, good sign for Texas. Good to see those guys make it a run. I hope we see Blumel stepping up and starting to score some playoff goals.
All right, Luds. The firing from yesterday. The Los Angeles Kings have dismissed
he didn't get fired.
Their GM, Rob Blake.
Parted ways.
Yeah, it was just a mutual agreement. You know what? Him and Luke have a great president. Robbie, they're buddies, right?
No replacement names.
Yeah, he didn't get fired. I think he's been questioned for a few years now. I think that was 5 years for him.
I think 4 or 5. 4 or 5 sounds right.
Yeah, so that was a mutual agreement that he would walk away, and they basically, what I heard is he just wants to have some time. He's not going to get involved in hockey. He just wants to. He's been involved in it since his whole entire life.
Not looking for that job right now.
Yeah. So
where are the Kings going with that?
To me,
they have one in-house.
The bullet's been dodged is the head coach because, I don't know Hiller at all, but there were some things that just watching them, the style that they played as the games went along in Edmonton, it's like you're just waiting to get beat.
They were playing to not lose. You
just want to go back there and sit in your own zone and just let Connor Hellebuyck.
And they were taking it to Edmonton. They had the lead.
Yeah, and then you just take your foot off the gas and you don't try to win the series. That's questionable. Oh, the whole challenge, the review challenge was questionable.
The worst. Yep.
So I'm surprised. And again, I think that it's a first year as a head coach, so maybe that's a pass right there. But anyway, I would have loved to see them knock out the.
I have picked them. It destroyed my bracket because I picked the Kings.
I did too.
We all did.
Yeah.
But that didn't work out so well. On the hiring front, we haven't had a chance to talk about this. It's not from yesterday, but Mike Sullivan signed as the head coach of the New York Rangers. That did not take long at all. We didn't expect it to. The interesting thing was it Boston, was it New York? Of course, he was an assistant with the Bruins and the head guy back, it's a long time ago, 2003 to 06 with the lockout year in between. And he was a Rangers assistant for, I think, 4 seasons before eventually making his way over to Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh for a decade. Do you think that he made the right decision in the sense that is New York closer to being a contending team than Boston is at this moment?
Well, I think they've got a world-class goaltender, and the other thing is him and Chris Drury are best friends, and Drury just happened to get a new deal.
That helps.
That surprised me.
I agree.
With the moves that were made there. But I do think that going to the Rangers with whatever parts of the roster they want to keep, they're ahead of going to San Jose or, some other teams that are a long way away. And I think he appears to me from the outside is a real good coach. And I think that when you can live with the guys, the superstars in Pittsburgh, and not ever have any tiffs with any of those guys, you can coach in New York.
Yep.
And I think anytime you have a goaltender like that, and they've got a couple really good defensemen there, whether Kreider stays or not. Panarin, another superstar. I haven't heard great things about him just from media-wise.
Well, and lately there's some allegations against Panarin as far as his behavior to, I believe, a female staff member from the Rangers.
MSG,
so that's a bit shaky as well. On the other side, the New York Islanders got themselves a surprising victory last night as they won the draft lottery. They moved up from 10th to picking 1st overall. And then the Utah Hockey Club won the second drawing, so they can't go all the way up. They actually limited it. The Stars are thankful for that rule change later because they wouldn't have gotten to Heiskanen in that draft. But from 14th up to 4th, which means San Jose gets the number 2 draw, there are some phenomenal players that will be drafted in this year's. But Gavin McKenna is the potential
clear
generational talent in Medicine Hat for next year's draft. So they still have a year to go. But how big of a deal is this for the Islanders?
Yeah, it's good, especially because they have like a 3% chance of getting it or something like that.
It was very low.
So it's good.
10th.
I think the Islanders could use all the luck and all the benefits because they have been one of the more disappointing franchises for quite a while now. I think what was the last time they had a really successful
They've been muddling.
Year? Didn't they go to back-to-back Eastern Conference Finals 2019 and 20, I believe? Didn't they play Tampa in the conference final in the bubble before Dallas? I believe it was those 2 years.
Yeah.
But since then, it's just been, it feels like they get players, they think they're going to be really good, and they're just severely disappointing. So for them, that's a big one. I know picking number 1 is never a bad thing, even if there's not a generational talent necessarily available.
Right. And that's the thing is you're not going to see anything for 3 to 5 years out of that.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Right,
but
so it's not like they're going to be fixed.
No.
Yeah.
And I do love San Jose getting up there again. San Jose is going to have just every top prospect and college player for the next 5 years, and eventually maybe that'll turn into a good
they
team.
keep paying college players. They may stay in school, though.
That's true.
All right, we have a couple super chats to get to before we wrap things up today. We also have other things we just won't get to on our item list, but that's why we have other shows. John, let's get a couple bing bongs out of the way.
Bing bong.
Sleeping Beagles with a Heiskanen 99. Got a little chippy on the show yesterday. Let's keep up the playoff intensity, boys. Have yourself another day. Can't wait for round 2.
Yeah, it did get a little chippy yesterday.
Yep.
There was a little bit of heat between
Fired
me.
up.
I was good, but you three were firing.
Yeah,
Firing all directions.
we're here to entertain the people.
John
Right?
came off his bachelor party just ready to.
Yeah, everybody was a little on edge yesterday. That's good things, though, right? All right, next one.
Bing bong.
Tommy Carlson with a Brendan Smith in Year After the Cup. Touchdown Stars. Bing bong.
Bing bong.
Touchdown.
Tommy Carlson with a Bischel and a Rantanen. Moose averaged 1.8 points per game against the Jets last year. 2 goals, 7 assists. Looking forward to his continued success during this series and the boys in the LR rally around it.
Everybody averaged 1.5 points against the Jets last year for the Colorado Avalanche, but I like it.
Bing bong.
Ardell with a Lundqvist and a Rantanen. Rantanen has played well historically versus the Jets. The Moose is loose. Luds, after that series, after the end of that, 11 points in his last 3 games against the Avalanche, I'd say he's pretty wound up right now.
I'd say he's oozing confidence.
Yeah.
Moose can run 30 miles per hour through 6 feet of snow.
You were listening to Razor, weren't you?
Was.
Yeah, Razor was doing
Bing bong.
Last one.
Tommy with a Brendan Smith and year after the cup. Anything about Emil Hemming projection? Oh, there it is.
It's down the line.
You scared him, John. Great throw.
Unplug the mic.
Almost landed in the mic, but not quite. Now Sam's not going to talk the rest of the show.
Hemming is an excellent prospect, but he's down the line.
Oh, we got another one. We have another one, John. We hit the bing bong. I'll read it.
Bing bong.
Freelancer with a Lundqvist and a 30. Ben Bishop. Stars loading the right side with snipers. Rant, Robo, Sagan. How much is that trying to exploit Helly's right glove side that the Blues showed? It's just the roster. We'll see you tomorrow. Hey, Brent Severin from Victory Plus will join us for the watch along.
Ride along.
Tomorrow night, Game 1, Stars and Jets.
Gonna need some more beer.
Get ready, boys.